and ghostlight at 3:17. The first message came inked in eyeliner across the corner of a call sheet I definitely hadn't printed. 3:17, ghostlight. I found it when I was picking gaff tape off the stage deck, kneeling into the splinters like I owed them rent. The call sheet had my name in the right place, the rehearsal times mostly right, the stage-left notes in my handwriting but not from my hands. It smelled faintly of someone's perfume, something floral with ambition, and it only took me 2 breaths to guess whose. Noah never learned subtle. She used to be my favorite part of that. The lyric is a theater that taught itself to be haunted. It's all velvet and grudges, with a chandelier that pretends it's never fallen. I'm the production manager they call when a show been promised to too many donors, and the stagehands look like they're ready to unionize their shadows. Our current miracle was City Without Windows, a new musical we sold to the press as bruised hope with horns. We sold it to the investors as Hamilton if the revolution was a zoning board meeting, which is why Kaspar Vale's name had started appearing on my schedules like mold. Kaspar funds art the way storms fund drainage companies. He loves epiphanies on other people's stages and nomming rights on anything that reflects well at galas. Lena, my Lena, calls men like him solvent. She's our choreographer and the only person I've ever seen glare a tap number into existence. She loves me the way she loves rehearsal. Absolutely, until I start sugarcoating what might break. At 3:12 a.m. the lyric has a sound. It's not the city outside or the air handler, it's the ghostlight itself, that single-bulbed sentinel you leave on stage so the room doesn't forget you're coming back. It hums. It forgives. It tells lies slowly. I unlocked the stage door. The lobby was sleeping in its sequins. I didn't turn on the work lights. I let the ghost light get me across the orchestra, up the proscenium stairs, into that circle of brightness where people confess for fun. Noah stepped out from the wing like a line you cut too close. She wore black the way midnight does. Her hair was pulled up with a pencil. She still bandaged 2 fingers on her right hand from the time she tried to catch a falling flat and made an argument with gravity instead. "You came," she said, "as if I didn't always." "I didn't bring roses," I said, nodding to the eyeliner, "or an apology." She smiled, that half angle that used to wreck me for days. "It's not a date," she said. "It's a theft." "You should lead with romance," I said. "I'd have been gentler." She set a script on a chair at the edge of the light. It had my show's title and a new subtitle, Corporate Underwriting Draft. Kaspar's initials were watermarked faintly, like condensation on glass. Tabs bristled like a bad temper. "He's slipping this in to replace Act 2 tomorrow," she said. "He says it's just to see if we can punch it up. He says it's temporary. He says a lot of things." She flipped to a page and let me read while she watched my face. His version swapped out the scene where Lena's choreography lifts the chorus, grief turned into muscle, for a branded City Grants song where the developer gets his repentant solo, with a redemption arc only money would applaud. There was a refrain about doors open to everyone, which I could already hear printed on donor tote bags. The stage directions included the sentence, "Union crew optional for the montage." My mouth tasted like a copper penny. "No," I said. "Yes," she said, "unless we make it impossible." "How impossible?" I asked, because the part of me that loves Lena also loves to measure where the floor can hold. Noah stepped into the ghost light so her face became theater. "He's paying for us to pretend there was no strike," she said. "He's paying for an art-shaped press release. I'll be damned if I let my show become a brochure." "Your show," I repeated to be annoying. "Ours," she amended without apology. She pointed to the console at the back of the house. He insists we load his cues tomorrow morning before the designer arrives. His coder will hand your ops intern a clean stack to drop in. When the board chair sees it at the 11 a.m. run, she'll say, "Let's try this just once for the donors." And once will become, it works on camera. If we jam the stack with something that looks like a bug, the run stalls, the board clerk panics, and we get 24 hours of chaos to show them the thing they actually funded. "That's why you called me," I said, "not because you wanted to make the ghost light jealous." Noah's mouth made a brief private shape. "I also wanted to look at you in the light that tells the truth," she said. "I don't get to do that anymore." "I told you the truth plenty," I said. "Too late is not plenty," she said, and then, because she always knew how to derail a train an inch from the cliff, she stepped closer. Her hand found my shirt placket with the confidence of history. Her thumb pressed into the bone below my collar where Lena puts her mouth when she wants to win an argument without words. "Don't," I said, before either of us started a different show. "I'm not stealing you," Noah said. "I'm stealing your courage. It's a rental. I'll return it sweaty." "Take it," I said. We crossed the orchestra like teenagers and woke up the light board. In the dark, with the ghost light performing and Noah's shoulder near mine, the room felt like the first night of anything dangerous. I pulled the current stacks and saved copies where only someone who speaks my dialect of paranoia would think to look. Then I built a pretty error, a loop that would rediscover itself when a certain house looked combined with a brand new MTCQ ID. It would freeze the console politely, ask for a reboot, and mail a log to my phone in a language that sounds like compliance. Noah watched my hands like choreography. "Lena still sleep-talks your name?" she asked, not messing around. "I sleep-talk building codes," I said. "She hates it." "I loved it," she said, softer than I wanted to let her be. "She wasn't the reason I left," I said, "because sometimes cruelty is also honesty." "I know," Noah said. "You left because I asked you to choose the show over your life and you did." She nodded toward the wings. "This is me choosing you over a sponsor, not as penance, as proof." She walked me to the stage door. Outside, the alley smelled like rain rehearsing. She leaned in once, not kissing, just measuring the distance and writing it down. "Tell Lena," she said. "I will," I said. "Tell her I used to be the version of you that thought the room was the love," she added, "and that I know better now." At 6:20 a.m., Lena woke me by holding a coffee mug to my nose and a phone to my ear. She was not wearing anything that would be appropriate for donors. "You broke into your job," she said, not mad enough to be bored. "Kinda," I said into the mug. "You're bare." "That was the plan," she said. "I had another plan 2 hours ago. It involved choreography on your lap and you being late for the 9 a.m. safety meeting." "You can still do the first part," I said. She gave me the look she saves for men who confuse permissiveness with permission, and then sat on the edge of the bed anyway, coffee balanced like a dare. "Noah texted me," she said. Of course she had. Noah's apology language is competence. "She said ghostlight," Lena went on. "And then she said your name the way people do when they want me to know they know how to pronounce us." I took her hand and pressed it to the place under my jaw where I carry any name that isn't hers. "It's not that," I said. "It's Kaspar." "Kaspar is always that," she said. "He asked me to cool the heat in the Act 2 dance. He wants the chorus less hungry. He thinks hungry is ugly if it's not his. Did you jam his cues?" "I wrote them a polite migraine," I said. She exhaled and then smiled for real. "Honeysuckle," she said. I groaned. "I hate that word." That's why it works, she said, climbing into my lap because we had 11 minutes and it was our favorite way to measure them. Her mouth found the place below my ear that resets me. Her hands set rules. We were careful, then not. We didn't perform, we made proof. At 11:03, the board chair sat like an expensive verdict in row F, and Kaspar's coder, suspiciously moisturized, dropped in his stack with the glee of a saboteur who thinks he's on the right side. The new Act 2 gelled in the rig with an eagerness I found insulting. The donors' seats were filled with those people whose laughs make theaters distrust themselves. At 11:28, the polite migraine bloomed. Blackout. Reboot. Console asks for calm. The board clerk texted me a question mark followed by 6 exclamation points, which is how you spell, "I approve of this only if you fix it now." Kaspar leaned over the chair and murmured something that made her tiny, and then larger in a different way, the way people get when the right noun finds them. "Hold," I called over God, 10 minutes. In those 10 minutes, Noah walked to the center mark and asked for the ghost light. The crew rolled it in. The bulb hummed its little truth. Lena stepped up beside her, barefoot, hair down like a decision. "This is how we begin when there's no money," Lena said to the room. "This is how we begin when there is." Noah held up a script, not Kaspar, ours. She flipped to the old Act 2 and laid it on the floor like a map. "The choreography is built on who gets to go first," she said. "Watch." The cast moved the way they do when the stage is the only law. Without the board, without the stack, without the new cues or the expensive apology, they made hunger into grace and pride into tempo. The little girl we cast from the community center did the turn she can't do unless Lena says the word that unlocks her knees. Lena didn't say it. The girl did it anyway. Noah looked up at the board chair. "That is what you funded," she said. The board chair stared at Kaspar. Kaspar smiled at the ghost light as if he had invented it. "Restore original Act 2, the chair told me, voice like a crisp bill. "And please flip whatever switch makes the donors feel lucky to be in the room." The donors laughed the way donors do when they recognize the kind of power that might still invite them to cocktails. Kaspar kept smiling. Men like him survive by making weather a social event. That night he texted me from a number he shouldn't have. "Dinner. We can talk about where the lines actually are." I put the phone face down. Lena slid into the kitchen in socks and my t-shirt and saw my expression like it was a headline. "He's not the conversation," she said. "He thinks he owns the punctuation," I said. She took the phone, typed "no thanks," and set it back down like a prop in a show she didn't respect. "Come here," she said. I did. We made the kind of love that keeps theater alive, slow enough to remember the marks, urgent enough to remind the room where the heat is. After, we watched the city practice its own choreography against the windows. She breathed against my throat like a metronome I trust more than my own. "He's going to try again," she said. "He always does," I said. "He'll go through Noah," she said. "He'll offer her a directorial slot in London if she tolerates one branded verse. He'll say the union clause was a draft error. He'll bring her mother to opening. He'll send flowers with stems like money." "You're very specific," I said. She shrugged. "Kaspar sent me a cuff I didn't ask for when I was 24. I mailed it back in a coffee tin." "Did you keep the tin?" I asked. "I use it for sequins," she said, and kissed my shoulder like a signature. 2 days later, the coder sent me a cleaner stack and a tetchy note about how my legacy programming sometimes conflicts with modern compliance. I sent back a screenshot of my polite migraine, with the part highlighted where his brand new QIDs tripped themselves when married to a network topology named after a bird he didn't know I knew. He didn't reply. He also didn't show up again in my building. On Friday, Noah knocked on our apartment door. She didn't text. She brought a bottle of something the label called red and her own new script with the watermarks removed. "He did offer London," she said, not pretending, "and a drink I wouldn't have to pay for with myself." "What did you say?" Lena asked, already knowing but wanting the pleasure of the words. "Honeysuckle," Noah said, and grinned when we both made faces. I know, it's terrible, that's why it works." We drank on the balcony while the Lyrics marquee across the street rehearsed its opening night blink. We talked about unions and donors, and the way cities make love to the first person who offers them a new skyline. Noah apologized without shame. Lena forgave without performance. I sat between them and realized this is what fidelity actually is. Not never looking at the rooms where you're tempted, but bringing the person you love into them and letting the light be a witness. Opening night, the ghost light waited in the wings like a memory we hadn't earned yet. The bored chair cried at the right measure. Kaspar clapped at the right volume and left before curtain call to make a phone call that would rearrange someone else's weather. The little girl nailed the turn. The union crew took the extra bow. Lena squeezed my hand hard enough to brand it. After, when the last camera died and the lyric exhaled the way old houses do, we stood on stage in the circle where decisions get made in plain sight. Noah hugged me and then hugged Lena for longer. She whispered something in her ear that made Lena's mouth tilt like a secret she liked. Then Noah walked into the dark, which is where she looks happiest when the work is good. Lena pulled me down into the ghost light. "Say it," she murmured. "Honeysuckle," I said, and hated it less. We kissed like a curtain call that wouldn't obey. Somewhere beyond the stage door, Kaspar's car pulled away into a city that will let him try again tomorrow. We'll be here. We'll be messy. We'll be in motion. We'll keep the ghost light on. Because that's the job and the love and the trick. When someone tries to open your stage with a cue that doesn't belong to your show, the light tells everyone whose room it really is. And if anyone forgets, we have the word. Ridiculous. Ours. The one that lets us tell the ugly truth and take the pretty bow and not confuse one for the other.